This story kicks off in Okinawa, Japan, back in the year 1986, where a young Daniel LaRusso steps into Mr. Miyagi's dojo. He finds the old man right in the middle of his training session. Once Mr. Miyagi finishes up his routine, he greets Daniel with that calm, friendly vibe of his. The kid's got questions, of course, so Mr. Miyagi takes a moment to explain that the portraits hanging on the wall, they ain't just decorations. Those are his ancestors up there, each one with a story, but one stands out more than the rest. The very first Miyagi who brought karate to the island of Okinawa. Like all the folks in his bloodline, that guy wasn't just a sensei, he was a fisherman too, someone real tied to the sea, you know? His bond with the ocean ran so deep that one time, while fishing way out in the open water, he actually dozes off in the middle of a wild storm, and when he finally wakes up, he's washed ashore in China. Over there, the Han family takes him in. Not only do they treat him with kindness, giving him a roof and a warm meal, but they go a step further. They teach him kung fu, show him their ways, their discipline, their spirit. So when the Miyagi ancestor eventually makes it back home to Okinawa, he ain't just bringing stories. He brings with him the essence of two different worlds, two martial arts traditions deeply rooted in honor and balance. Over time, the two martial traditions merge, linking both families across generations up to the present. After a brief intro, the story moves to Beijing, where Mr. Han, a respected and no-nonsense kung fu teacher, runs a top-tier school. He trains his students in martial arts values through exercises like the jacket drill, simple on the surface, but rooted in discipline and consistency. Among his students, one kid stands out, Li Feng. Teenager, got real drive, trains hard every single day. But what makes him different? He's always got his headphones on, pumping music while he moves. He's bringing together the old school and the new school. Tradition meets the now. One day, one of the girls in class spots someone coming, a doctor. Soon as she mentions it, Mr. Han reacts fast, tells her to keep the visitor busy for a bit. Lee hears what's going on and freezes up. Why? Because the doctor's his mom. A few minutes later, Mr. Han welcomes the woman inside. Turns out she ain't just any visitor, she's his niece. She's clearly rattled and wastes no time. She demands to know where her son is. Han tries to calm her down, offers her some tea, trying to ease the mood, but she ain't budging. She's dead set on her point. She don't want Lee going down the same road as his uncle who died after following this martial path. Han listens carefully, showing respect, but when he answers, his words come out strong and clear. He tells her that kung fu ain't about violence. It's a way of seeing the world, a way of life that helped him crawl out of his own darkness. Just when things are starting to boil, the doctor drops a bomb. She got a job offer in New York, and she plans on taking Lee with her. Right then and there, the kid shows up and steps to his mom, telling her straight up that he wants to keep training. Not just for the fighting, but to grow as a person, you know? But she's made up her mind. She promises him that over in the States, he's gonna have a better shot at life. One without brawls, without danger. And just like that, with no real choice in the matter, Lee's gotta leave it all behind. His school, his master, and the only home he's ever known, for a whole new life on the other side of the world. Once he's settled into his new apartment, Lee stares at a photo that reminds him of his brother. It hits him hard, nostalgia mixed with a spark of determination. He grabs the excuse of going out for some food and heads out to get a feel for the neighborhood. He ends up at this little hole-in-the-wall pizzeria, and he asks for something like back home, typical Chinese dish. The owner, some cranky guy named Victor, gives him attitude right off the bat, mocking him and saying if he wants that trash food, he's gotta go miles away. But Victor's daughter Mia steps in. She apologizes for her dad's rudeness, explaining they only serve pizza there. Lee stays polite, still asks if they sell paper. Mia looks puzzled, so he explains. He just moved in and needs a nearby shop. She softens, gives him directions, and just like that, Lee walks away not only with the info he needed, but maybe with a new friend too. The next morning, after taking in some advice from his mom, Lee heads out on his own to his new school. While riding the subway, he spots a poster for an upcoming martial arts event. It grabs his attention right away, stirring up memories from his old life back in China, his time training, the dojo, all of it. But now things are different. At school, Lee's facing the tough reality of starting fresh. No familiar faces, no friends, just trying to make sense of a whole new world. He keeps his guard up, watching everything, trying to figure out where he fits in. Days go by, and one afternoon, as he's heading home after class, he runs into Mia again. She's struggling with a bunch of heavy boxes on her way to the pizzeria. Without thinking twice, Lee offers a hand. As they walk together, Mia's caught off guard by how clear and natural his English sounds. No accent, no stumbling. Lee explains he went to an American school over in Hong Kong, so talking like this comes easy. After helping Mia with the boxes, Lee offers to keep lending a hand. While walking through the city, he mentions he used to train kung fu, though he says he's done with that life. Mia warns him to stay away from a certain gym, but before she can say more, the owner appears and pressures her over her dad's debt. Inside, the guy tells his top student Connor that Mia, his ex, is hanging with another dude. Connor don't take it well. Without missing a beat, he turns and throws a wild kick at one of his sparring partners. No warning, just rage. His temper off the charts. Later on, Mia and Lee head over to an auto parts store. When she sees the price tag, Mia hesitates, but Lee steps in, speaking Mandarin with the Chinese shopkeeper, and ends up scoring a $150 discount. As they leave, he tells her he pretended they were a couple to get the deal. She laughs, and Lee takes the chance to offer her a trade. He'll teach her Mandarin if she shows him around the city. They settle on Sunday for a little tour, but Lee's already thinking of it as a date. That night, when his mom asks if he's made any new friends, Lee says yeah, and mentions a girl named Mia. Sunday rolls around, and Mia picks him up on a motorcycle, ready to show him him her favorite hangout spots around the city, but their joyride gets cut short when the bike breaks down and they gotta switch to the subway. On the train, Mia practices her Mandarin with Lee's help, swapping stories and jokes that start to bring them closer together. But things take a turn when they run into Connor and his crew at one of the stations. Mia warns him to stay cool, but Connor steps up aggressive. Lee keeps his cool, real calm, but out of nowhere, Connor sucker punches him, leaving him dazed and momentarily blinded. Outside the station, Mia's full of apologies. She explains that Connor hasn't been the same since he got deep into karate. She tells Lee he's been winning underground fights all over the city and warns him straight up going up against Connor, that'd be a real bad idea. She also confesses that being with Connor was her way of acting out against her dad. Back at the pizzeria, Mia's father helps Lee cover up the bruise and gives him a little street wisdom, tells him to always keep his guard up, cause in this city, fights ain't ever fair. Next morning, his mom catches him trying to bring down the swelling with a tea bag. She freaks out, reminding him she told him straight, no fights, no trouble. As punishment, she decides to go with him to the library and introduces him to Alan, a tutor who's gonna help him stay on track with his schoolwork. That night, Lee stares at an old photo of his brother and his former master, thinking back to the dragon kick, a technique he never quite nailed. Later on, Connor shows up again and corners him. Lee tries to steer clear, doesn't want to throw hands, but when he's got no way out, he shoves Connor back. Connor, smug as hell, says he'll fight, but only using his legs. With just his kicks, he tears Lee apart in front of everyone. Lee gives it everything he's got and even pulls off the dragon kick, but Connor blocks it like it's nothing, then drops him hard. Teachers rush in, but not before Connor lays down a formal challenge for the tournament. Humiliated, Lee walks home with his head low. On the way, he spots posters with Connor's face all over, promoting him as the big star of the event. That night, driven by frustration, he sneaks out and heads to the pizzeria, hoping to fix Mia's bike, unaware he's about to witness two goons showing up looking for Victor. Victor tries to talk things down, but it all goes sideways when one of the guys sucker punches him and knocks him clean out. When Lee doesn't back off, the thugs slam him up against a wall. But this time, Lee ain't taking it. He strikes back hard. He drops one of them with a solid kick, then goes toe-to-toe with the other two, moving fast and sharp, showing real martial arts skills. At one point, he even grabs one guy's leg and uses it like a weapon. Quick, improvised, brutal. The fight wears him down, and he takes a nasty hit that sends him crashing onto the hood of a car. Still, he pulls himself up, fired up, and finishes the fight strong. One by one, he takes them all out, and the punks end up running off, totally wrecked. Victor, still dizzy, looks at Lee in disbelief. He's stunned by the strength this kid's got. He asks where Lee learned to fight like that, and Lee tells him straight. He trained in Kung Fu back in Beijing. Victor, real honest now, admits the goons are after him over a debt he can't shake, and he's done running. He begs Lee to train him for one last fight that could settle things and save the pizzeria, but Lee refuses. He explains he made a promise to himself, never to fight again, after going through something just as heavy as what made Victor hang up the gloves when Mia was born. Later, Lee joins his mom at a traditional Chinese festival, where folks send lanterns floating into the sky in a quiet, emotional ceremony. In the midst of all the calm, Lee calls up his master Han, who tells him how much they all miss him at the school. Feeling inspired, Lee watches Victor train alone and makes up his mind. He admits to Victor that he's seen how slow and vulnerable his training is, and he agrees to step in and help him out. Han encourages him, saying that teaching Kung Fu to help others is just another way of honoring his legacy. The training kicks off in a modest gym, and Lee's swift moves make him practically untouchable, as Victor tries and fails to land a hit. Just when things are getting serious, Mia walks in and sees them. She flips out, warning Lee that if anything happens to her dad, it's on him, but Victor stands firm, convincing her to let it ride. Lee teaches Victor that Kung Fu ain't just about fighting, it's a whole way of life. He puts up a picture of Han in the gym and shows his respect every single day. Training spills over into the pizzeria, with dough and kitchen tools becoming makeshift training equipment. Even on the subway, Victor's not stopping, working on his moves, determined to get his strength back. Lee fully commits to teaching Victor, passing on important techniques like the legendary inch punch. Meanwhile, he keeps teaching Mia Mandarin, and she makes real progress, even holding a short conversation with a street vendor, which marks a big personal victory for her. One day, Connor, walking by the pizzeria, sees the growing closeness between Lee and Mia, his ex-girlfriend. It doesn't escape his notice. As time passes and the training intensifies, Victor sharpens his inch punch. He gets stronger, more balanced, and quicker. But more importantly, he starts regaining his daughter's trust. One night, Lee walks in to find his mom asleep, holding a photo of his late brother. Touched, he channels his emotions into furious training at the gym. Victor finds him hitting the punching bag with all his pent-up rage. And when he gets closer, Lee opens up about a painful memory. He shares an old Chinese tradition. When someone dies, the doors and windows are open to let death leave. Lee tells Victor that a year ago, after a tournament in Beijing, he and his brother, freshly crowned champion, were attacked by the man he defeated and a group of vengeful men. During the attack, his brother was stabbed. Even though his brother cried out for help, Lee froze in fear. He watched him die, helpless to do anything. Victor, moved by Lee's story, urges him to forgive himself, warning that if he doesn't heal that wound, the pain will destroy him. The next day, Lee continues teaching Alan at the pizzeria. Mia asks if he's going to the event that night, but he hesitates. Alan, picking up on the tension, encourages him to go, but then confesses that he lied about his progress in calculus just to help Lee in front of Mia. Later at the fair, Alan pushes Lee to approach her, but when he sees her with Connor, his insecurities take over again. Before the fight, Mia confronts Lee about his coldness. He admits he saw her with Connor. Mia acknowledges the situation was complicated, but makes it clear that it's over with him for good because now Lee's in her life. Just as they're about to kiss, Victor interrupts. He doesn't want any distractions. In the ring, Victor faces a bigger opponent. Despite the disadvantage and O'Shine mocking him, betting on his loss, Victor recalls Lee's teachings, flow like water. That's when the fight begins. The fight continues, and despite receiving more instructions from Lee, Victor is still clearly overpowered by his opponent's strength. He struggles to keep up, feeling the weight of every punch and the growing frustration. However, in the second round, he decides to use the inch punch technique and surprises everyone by knocking down his rival. The crowd goes silent for a moment, stunned by Victor's sudden display of skill, and he feels a renewed sense of determination surge through him. Although the opponent quickly gets back up, the dynamic shifts. Now it's Victor who's in control, dodging with agility and countering with precision until he corners his rival. Desperate, the opponent resorts to an illegal hit after a signal from O'Shine, brutally striking Victor and knocking him unconscious against the glass of the ring. Mia runs to get help while Lee, paralyzed by the horror, relives the trauma of his brother's death. Later, at the hospital, Mia asks him to accompany her, but Fia blocks him. Hours later, his mother, the doctor in charge, informs Mia that Victor is stable. She then confronts her son, demanding an explanation. Lee confesses his involvement as a trainer, which deeply disappoints his mother, as he had promised to leave Kung Fu behind. Consumed by guilt, Lee destroys everything related to martial arts and avoids any contact, but when he returns home, he discovers someone has broken in. After being attacked in his kitchen, he faces the intruder unsuccessfully, only to find out it's his teacher Han. The unexpected arrival of his mother forces both of them to cover up. During dinner, Han introduces himself as a casual visitor, but later, seeing the devastation in Lee's room, he reminds him that while he can't avoid life's punches, he can decide when to rise again. Inspired, Lee visits Victor the next day. Mia leaves when she sees him, still hurt. Alone, Lee apologizes, but Victor absolves him of all blame and confesses his intention to move away. Lee fears that this means giving up, but Victor corrects him. It's about moving forward. Han then announces that Lee will participate in the district tournament with only 10 days to prepare. As Lee looks for a place to train, Han visits Mr. Miyagi's shrine to pay his respects. There, Daniel LaRusso appears, surprised to learn that Han knew Miyagi. Han reveals he's searching for his student, Daniel himself, showing a photo of them together taken in 1985. Han recalls how Miyagi would speak proudly of Daniel, the young man who gave purpose back to his life. Moved by that inspiration, Han seeks for his disciple Lee to learn not just any type of karate, but the true Miyagi style. But when he proposes to Daniel to train him, Daniel hesitates. He can't drop everything and move to New York. Although he mentions that there are good dojos in the city, Han insists that what he seeks for Lee is something deeper. He leaves with the hope that eventually Daniel will reconsider. Meanwhile, Lee confesses to Alan that he's signed up for the 5-district tournament, even though he doesn't yet master karate and doesn't have a place to train. Alan, with his usual generosity, takes him to the rooftop of the building where he raises pigeons and grows plants, offering that space as a personal gym. The next morning, Han wakes Lee up early to continue training. On the rooftop, they practice with rotating logs and intense exercises, including the demanding jacket technique, this time with Lee hanging by his feet. The goal is clear: perfect the dragon kick. With each passing day, the training grows more grueling, but Lee's determination to improve keeps him going, pushing him to overcome his limits and refine his skills even further. Lee's mother, upon learning about the tournament, demands answers from Han. He explains that this isn't a meaningless fight, but rather a crucial rite of passage for the young man, as well as a way to honor his late brother. Han also keeps a close eye on Lee's diet, steering him away from junk food. Meanwhile, Connor, the rival, is seen training intensely in his own gym. During one of the training sessions, Daniel unexpectedly reappears. He watches Lee and points out a key mistake: his stance too horizontal for karate, which requires balance and verticality. Han and Daniel formally introduce themselves, and though Daniel warns that 1 week isn't enough time to master the techniques, Han reassures him that Lee has exceptional talent. To prove it, he invites Daniel to watch his student, who struggles but manages to pull off the dragon kick. Thus begins a period of joint training. Daniel focuses on teaching the basic techniques, while Han simulates real attacks, emphasizing that Lee's true opponent won't show mercy. As the training progresses, Lee faces personal challenges as well. Mia, his friend, ignores him after a heated argument. When he confides in Han, he receives an important lesson. Is it worth fighting for? Inspired, Lee decides Mia is worth it. That same afternoon, he orders a pizza, knowing she will be the one delivering it, and gets her to come up to the rooftop, where he waits for her. Lee greets Mia on the rooftop, joined by Alan, who's acting as a makeshift waiter. He steps in as a mediator and asks Mia to give her friend another chance. After a moment of hesitation, she agrees, and the two spend the afternoon talking openly and warmly. During their conversation, she reminds him that he doesn't need to fight for anyone other than himself. Moved by her words, Lee opens up, confessing that that's exactly why he's doing it, for himself. When he asks her if she supports him, Mia nods, sealing their reconciliation in a sincere and deep way. Then comes the much-anticipated day of the tournament. The announcer declares the grand prize to be $50,000, and and that the matches will be decided by knockout or by scoring 8 points. Body shots are worth 1 point, direct hits to the head 2. In his first fight, Lee faces Buddha Stevens. After taking an initial blow, Lee quickly recovers and retaliates with a knee to the abdomen and a flying kick to the head, knocking his opponent out cold. Throughout the tournament, training continues. Daniel teaches Lee the Yamasuki, a defensive block that Han adapts to his own style. The two masters end up facing off in a symbolic duel, only for Lee to stop them with a reflection on the unity between their traditions. On the second day, Lee defeats Tornado using the Yamasuki, while Connor advances effortlessly. His skill is so sharp that he even allows himself to show mercy to some opponents when he could have easily beaten them, showing an almost arrogant confidence in his own abilities. At the end of the day, both Lee and Connor manage to secure their spots in the semifinals. Later, Victor finally returns home, where he finds that Mia has remodeled the pizzeria in honor of his past as a fighter, a gesture full of emotion and pride. The tournament goes on, and in the next match, Connor effortlessly defeats his opponent with a flying kick that sends him crashing hard to the ground, securing his place in the big final. During Lee's match, he starts off at a disadvantage, taking a direct blow to the head that costs him 2 points, but he doesn't take long to recover. With determination and skill, he chains together a series of precise counterattacks that allow him to take control of the fight. In the end, he positions himself perfectly and knocks his opponent out cold with a powerful kick, finishing the match with a decisive blow. When O'Shine hears that Lee has made it to the final as well, he's visibly frustrated by the young man's progress and makes a desperate decision. In a moment of anger, he approaches his team and begins plotting ways to ensure that Lee doesn't make it any further, willing to go to any lengths to take him down. His frustration clouds his judgment, and he starts to make reckless moves. He orders his thugs to ambush Lee, intending to take him out before the final fight. However, his plans are quickly thwarted when Han and Daniel intercept the attackers on their way. With their complete mastery of martial arts and years of experience as teachers, both Han and Daniel manage to neutralize the assailants effortlessly, knocking them out and eliminating the threat in an instant. After the incident is resolved, and with several days still remaining until the tournament's final, the characters return momentarily to their daily routines. In this context, Lee's mother has a conversation with Han, asking about the tournament's progress. He tells her that everything is going as planned, but takes the opportunity to point out something crucial. Her presence at the final could provide invaluable support for her son, both emotionally and psychologically. Meanwhile, the training continues, and Daniel, understanding Connor's fighting style, decides to adjust his approach. He realizes that Connor fights like a wild tiger, aggressive and relentless, a style he claims to have experience with given his past bouts with similarly aggressive opponents. Daniel plans to counter Connor's aggressive style with calm precision and technique, rather than relying on power. This strategy boosts his confidence as he prepares Lee for the upcoming challenge. Lee, with a hint of challenge in his voice, suggests that maybe he should become an even bigger tiger. But Daniel tells him straight up that the best way to throw off an opponent like Connor ain't by getting louder or tougher, it's by setting a trap. To prove his point, he pulls a slick move that knocks Lee off his feet, then breaks it down for him. He's got to use the opponent's own aggression against him, let the guy's momentum become his weakness. But Han, watching from nearby, ain't convinced. He steps in, and with a sharp move from his own discipline, he brings Lee down just as fast, maybe faster. Han makes it clear that for this kind of fight, Kung Fu's the sharper blade. The two masters end up going back and forth, each trying to prove their styles superior. Poor Lee caught in the middle, taking hits like a damn training dummy while they argue through him. Later on, while Lee's training solo, Daniel takes a moment to give Han some real props, tells him he's lucky to have such a gifted student, but Han just shrugs, humble as ever, and says all teachers are only as good as their students. He says it's something he learned from Miyagi. One afternoon, while Daniel's watching Lee go over the dragon kick, he mentions that the move once belonged to his brother, but Lee tells him he ain't planning on using it in the final. He already tried it last time against Connor, and the guy saw it coming. Still, Daniel insists, nah, this time it's gonna be the perfect move, not to finish him, but to bait him. When Connor starts feeling like he's in control, that's when he's gonna throw his real punch. That's his style. Wait till you think you got him, then boom, he flips the whole thing on you. To sharpen the dragon kick for the big moment, they decide to train using the subway turnstiles as a balance drill. But it ain't easy. Lee takes a bunch of nasty spills trying to get it just right. Later that night, Daniel pulls out something special, Miyagi's bandana. He tells Lee it ain't just a piece of cloth, it's a symbol of the tree that connects their two families. He says he agreed to train him cause he wants Lee to carry on his master's legacy, and to always remember why he fights in the first place. So Lee takes the bandana, and with that new fire lit inside him, he dives back into his training, pushing himself harder than ever. The bruises, the falls, the fatigue, none of it slows him down, and eventually, after countless tries, he nails the dragon kick, sharp, clean, perfect. On the day of the final match atop a 60-story building, Lee is surprised by his mother's visit. Though she initially planned not to come, she now expresses her pride in him and urges him to win. With that, Lee bows to Daniel and asks him to tie Miyagi's bandana for him. As he walks through the crowd toward the platform, a flicker of his brother's memory crosses his mind. Standing nearby, Victor gives him a nod of respect just before the fight begins. Once they're both in the ring, Lee and Connor lock eyes, intense and unblinking. When the referee calls for the traditional bow, Connor flat out refuses to go through with it. Don't even flinch. No respect, just ego. The fight starts with Lee making the first move, but Connor quickly takes control, landing a powerful kick to Lee's face and scoring the first 2 points. Moving fast and confidently, Connor dominates early, using his legs to push Lee back and assert his advantage. Connor's got such a strong upper hand, it's like he's just toying with Lee. On his next move, he crashes straight into Lee, slamming him into the referee and knocking both of them down. Then without missing a beat, he scoops Lee up and fires off another brutal kick, launching him across the ring and slamming him into one of the corners. At that moment, the scoreboard flashes 4-0. Connor's clearly dominating, but Lee, even after all that, ain't done. He gets back up, eyes focused, breathing deep, and re-enters the fray with a new fire in his gut. This time he keeps some distance, taking a second to get centered. When Connor comes at him again, Lee blocks the attacks clean and counters with a razor-sharp strike, the infamous 1-inch punch. Connor sees that hit as straight-up disrespect. Boiling with rage, he shoves the ref aside, ready to keep fighting, rules be damned. But Lee, showing some serious grit, dodges Connor's blows once again. Then in a key moment, he lands a sharp kick right to Connor's chest, earning himself another point. The crowd's buzzing now, and the hits keep coming. Connor's going all out, wild with fury, but that chaos opens him up, and Lee takes full advantage, slamming a roundhouse kick straight to his face. That racks up 2 more points for Lee. Connor, still thinking he's got the upper hand, smirks and dares Lee to go first this time. Lee don't back down. He leaps in midair and slams into Connor with slick precision, knocking him to the floor hard. But Connor ain't new to this. He's been in the game too long. In the next round, he times it just right, catching Lee in midair with a brutal shot to the head that drops him flat. The judge starts the countdown, and it looks like it's over. But just then, Lee hears the voices of his mom, of Daniel, of Han. They echo in his mind, reminding him who he is and why he's here. He thinks of his brother, and somehow he pulls himself back up. Now both fighters are tied at 7 points. One more strike's gonna decide it all. Tension's high as they close in, eyeing each other real careful, waiting for that signal. When the judge calls it, Lee goes in with the legendary dragon kick. At that exact second, Connor flashes back to their school fight and throws the same kick to meet him midair. But this time, Lee pulls off something incredible. With lightning-fast reflexes, he dodges the kick at the very last second, leaving Connor off balance. Without wasting a beat, Lee takes his shot, lands a slick side kick that knocks Connor clean down. That's the move that seals the deal. Lee wins the fight. Showing respect and keeping it humble, Lee starts to walk away, ready to leave it all behind in peace. But then bam, out of nowhere, Connor glances over at his sensei and something clicks in his head. Suddenly, he lunges at Lee with a sneak attack. Lee, sharp as ever, sees it coming, blocks it smooth, and flips Connor onto the mat, setting himself up perfectly to deliver the knockout blow. But just before he finishes it, he hears the words of his master echo in his mind, and in that moment he gets it, mercy. Instead of crushing him, Lee holds back and offers him a hand to help him up, a real sign of honor. Soon after, Lee's crew rushes in, lifting him up on their shoulders like a true champ, celebrating his victory with pride. Sometime later, we see Victor's business booming. Things go so well, he's opening up a second spot, and to honor Lee, he adds a Chinese-style pizza to the menu. Lee, touched by the gesture, sends a pizza to Daniel, along with a picture of himself holding the championship trophy, as a thank you for all the training. While Daniel's enjoying a slice with Johnny, his friend jokes about naming a pizza joint Miyagi's, but Daniel shuts it down, saying it'd be disrespectful to the wise man who always guided him.